Hello, everybody. It's July the 31st, 2026, and we're coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma on tonight's late edition. It's the first time we've actually started late on any one of these episodes out of the 104, since this is episode 104. Pretty exciting. If I look tired, that's because I am. I literally just got into the house and had just moments to spare to get this together. I just flew back from Indianapolis, and I spoke to the Indiana Association of Hostage and Crisis Negotiators, and I spoke there yesterday, but I got back today. I got back just literally moments before we're on here, and I'm glad to be here. I'm tired. I'm really tired, but tonight's going to be a great episode. If you want to see some pictures of my trip, I didn't have time to show them on this one, but you can go over to my Detective Jason White Facebook page, and you can check them out there. I've been throwing pictures up over the last few days, and I know that several of you follow me over there, and so I appreciate it. I want to say hello to everybody that's here in the house. Thank you for adjusting your schedule tonight to join us, and I just felt that I wanted to have a live episode. So welcome, Steph, Karen, JP. Welcome to you. Your somebody's air conditioner was out, I guess. I'm sitting here looking. I don't know, somebody might have had some air conditioning issues. I didn't see who it was, but I'm glad it's on now. And Darren, welcome. And everybody else, I appreciate you being here. I really do. And I know tonight's going to be a really dynamite episode. Danny's here. Thank you, Danny. And Travis from Muskogee PD. Let me tell you something. This guy that we're going to have on tonight is Angel Maysonet, and he is well known from NYPD. He grew up in the Bronx, and just a consummate professional, and I think you're really going to enjoy tonight's show. He and I have communicated for the last probably at least 3 years, I would say, even longer, I believe. But tonight is really the first night that we've actually met face-to-face and talked, but we've, kind of liked each other's things and so forth for years. And so he apparently is a little bit of a fan of the first 48, so that's cool. I really love it. Lisa, welcome. I appreciate you being in here, and hopefully there's going to be many, many more. I'll try to give you guys a shout out. But episode 104, and let's get to it. I'm gonna bring him on here. Essentially, he is a retired NYPD detective and former member of the FBI NYPD JTTF, which is the Joint Terrorism Task Force. With 11 plus years on patrol, he was also a member of the anti-crime unit in the 48th precinct, which is located in the Bronx, one of the rough parts of the Bronx. 3 years in the detective squad. Last 7 years of his career was in JTTF. He was a case detective for Operation Highrise, which we will definitely get into that, because that is a case where that was Osama Bin Laden's last plot against the United States before he was killed. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people that are watching here tonight don't even know what that's about. But that'll be interesting, and he'll talk about that. And he's one of NYPD's finest. And I really, he's got an exciting story to tell here. He's got lots of stories, really. And I think that it's going to be a fun episode tonight, for no doubt. So we'll bring him on. Angel, NYPD, well known. I know you don't know everybody doesn't know you there, but you also even worked on 9/11. Well, I want to talk about that.
No sound.
No sound?
Can't hear anything.
Well, hopefully you can hear me. Chris, nod your head if you can actually hear me. Well, I'm not hearing him either. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Give me a thumbs up in the chat room if you guys can hear me. Sorry about that. And welcome to Kathleen. It's good to see you in here in the audience. And Kelly Meredith, welcome. Amelia, I'm seeing some names here. I'm so excited that you're here as well. Now, can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
All right. Were you able to hear that when I was talking about you and your legendary status?
I read your lips, believe it or not.
Well, listen, welcome. Hey, tell us a little bit. So you grew up in the Bronx. Let's talk about that upbringing and what led you to want to be a police officer.
So raised in the Bronx, Puerto Rican heritage. Both my parents were born in Puerto Rico. My grandfather was a bit of a politician in the projects and the housing projects and Patterson houses in the South Bronx. Really was my example as a man growing up. My parents split up when I was really young. My mother raised me pretty much all alone, and I would hang with my grandparents, and be with my grandfather, Thomas Ford, especially in the summer. And he was a merchant marine. He was an Army veteran, merchant marine. He always spoke to me about the respect that someone deserves in uniform, whether it's a janitor or police officer, mailman, whatever. They got a uniform on, they deserve respect. So my mother worked for the NYPD as a police administrative aide in headquarters. I still remember her phone number from her office from when I was a kid, when I used to call asking her what meat she wanted me to take out of the freezer before she got home, and no meat was thawed, and I got in trouble. So I ended up went to high school in the Bronx. After high school, I became a security guard. I worked in Cross County Mall in Yonkers for a while, and then I took the police test. And at the ripe old age of 21, I entered the NYPD Police Academy on June 30th, 1992, the midnight class.
Wow, was that a tough agency to get on? I would think, right? Especially at 21.
Yeah, it was. So I did really well on the test. I'm a lot smarter than I look, right? I got like a 100.8 or something on the test. So my list number was 102 out of like 10,000 applicants.
Wow.
Yeah. So I still remember my test number was 9006, and the test before me was 0079. I don't know how I remember. I got a big head, so I guess I got a lot of useless information stuck in there. But 9006 was my test number, and that was this number 102. So I was actually supposed to go into January class, but my investigator kind of screwed up my investigation a little bit. So, I mean, anyway, everything happens for a reason. I ended up in the June 30th, 1992 class. But yeah, it was difficult to get on. But back then, all you needed was a high school diploma. So, I didn't have any college. I couldn't afford to go to college. I had to work. I had been working and helping my mother pay the bills since I was 12 years old. So, got on the job and started the police academy at the ripe old age of 21, and I turned 22 in the academy.
Yeah, and I think I heard somewhere that when you one of the things that you got exposed to law enforcement specific, wasn't your stepdad? Wasn't he? Was it your stepdad? Or?
Yeah, so my mom's boyfriend. My mom's boyfriend was a police officer in the 46th precinct. My mom was a crossing guard also. Okay. And she started dating an officer from the 46th precinct, which is where we lived at the time. We lived on 183rd and Morris Avenue, and anybody who knows the Bronx knows that that's the belly of the beast. We lived at 2395 Morris Avenue, and it was hot. It was hot back then, and it's even hotter now. It's actually, to get a little serious, about 2 blocks away from where Detective Mayosot's familia was killed, executed while sitting in a temporary headquarters vehicle. She was killed there, probably about 2 blocks away from there. So, hot neighborhood. But I remember my mom dating him, and he would come around, and he always had his little blue gun on him, his little revolver. And I always remember how safe I felt with him around. And, all those little influences led to me wanting to become a police officer.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching, Fort Apache, the Bronx, with Paul Newman, and that's not far from there.
Yeah.
And farthest north I've been in the Bronx is I think 126th and Malcolm X, and
Okay.
but you know, I walked through there. It seemed pretty tame at the time, but
Yeah, that's actually Harlem.
oh,
You know,
Harlem.
yeah, it's
I've been
funny.
up to where Yankee Stadium is. You know,
Yeah. That's 164, around 161st. It's funny
okay.
you mentioned Fort Apache because my special operations lieutenant Billy Rath was one of the first anti-crime cops, in the NYPD, and he did a lot of consulting and helped out with filming Fort Apache with Paul Newman. He was kind of a consultant on the movie. So yeah, they actually filmed it in Borough Hall Park, and that was in the confines of the 4-8. So a lot of little nuggets
Yeah.
and Easter eggs there, you know.
No, that's cool. So you go through
Yeah.
the academy, and the thing that I find fascinating about your academy, and I had no idea that they did this until I know a cold case guy with you know, I'd ask you if you know him, but man, there's like 35,000 cops there, so you know, I doubt you do, but you never know. But he was like, oh yeah, you know, when I went through the academy, I mean, you could go to the housing or the Port Authority or NYPD. Is there kind of a how do they do that? And is there kind of like a favorite that everybody wants to do?
So it was housing, transit, or PD, right? That those were the three choices. If Port Authority was one of the choices, it would have been fantastic because we would have made a lot more money.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was housing, transit, and PD. So basically, we go into Brooklyn Tech High School, right? We were the midnight class of '92. So we got sworn in at 11:59 and 59 seconds because it was because of fiscal budget and fiscal year and stuff. And we went in under the David Dinkins Safe City, Safe Streets program. So basically, we swore in Brooklyn Tech High School, raise your right hand, yada, yada, yada. It was 900 degrees inside the high school. And then they take your paper and you walk down this gauntlet and they go transit, housing, PD, transit, housing, PD. So you're basically, and I remember walking and I'm like, oh shit. Like, okay, I'm trying to count like 10 heads ahead of me, you know, like, okay, and I'm trying to do the math, right, which I suck at. And I'm trying to see, okay, when they get to me, what am I going to get? And thankfully, because my first bad experience with a cop was a transit cop, so I didn't want transit. When I was a kid, all the transit cops were black, big black dudes, and they wore these leather trench coats, and they were bad dudes, man. That like if you hop the turnstile, they wouldn't lock you up. They'd smack the shit out of you and send you on your way. You know, they were real tough dudes. So I remember I was like, I don't want to be a transit cop. And then housing, you know, spending a lot of time in the projects with my grandfather, my grandmother in Patterson houses. I didn't want to be a housing cop either because every stairway smelled like urine. There was feces all over the place. The elevators were full of urine and God knows what. And I'm like, I don't want to walk around in the housing projects with these people.
No.
So, but thankfully I got PD and I ended up in the 48th precinct.
Now, how does that work as to where you're going to go in the precinct? Did you have a little bit of pull? Did they kind of stick you up there because you're in that area? You already kind of grew up in that area?
No. So my mother, working in Lone Police Plaza, her best friend worked for the lieutenant who was in charge of handing out the precincts. So okay. I could say this now because the statute of limitations is probably up 34 years ago. So my mom's friend Sonia, she asked my mother, she's like, where does he want to go? And the 4-8 was like a B. So they have A house, which is like the 4-6, the 4-4, the 7-5, like the real crazy houses. And then the 4-8 was like a B house. But we boarded the 4-6 and the 4-2. We shared a radio at the time. It was Division 7 with them. So we could hear each other's radio transmissions. So I was like, you know what? I'll go to a B house. I knew a couple of cops that worked there already, you know, from being a security guard and interacting with them throughout my life. So I was like, let me go to the 4-8. So I told my mom, she told Sonia, and lo and behold, I ended up in a 4-8.
Yeah, see, I thought you know, if I was always thinking if I was going to work in New York City, because I love New York. I've been there several times. Myself and there's a guy in here. We actually trained Danny Couples, who's in here. We actually trained at the medical examiner's office 3 different times over there off 6th Street and First Avenue.
Yeah, Bellevue Hospital. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so we trained there 3 separate times, and you know I've walked that entire city, man. I went to Staten Island. I walked around there. You know, Brooklyn was a little scary to me,
Yeah.
but you know, because I'd walked over to the Brooklyn Bridge, and I was like, it was late at night, and when I got on to the other side, I was like, yeah, I don't belong over here. I need to get home. I need to get to a subway terminal in a hurry.
Your
Yeah,
survival skills kicked in, definitely. Yeah.
it did. It did. And I can tell by your reaction that I probably should have gotten out of there in a hurry.
Yeah. You don't have enough. What is it? Melatonin or melatonin or whatever it is in your skin? Yeah, you're a little. Well, now it's gentrified, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it was kind of
you're a little.
scary.
Yeah, you're a
So,
little.
but I've walked it all. I would think that I'd probably want to work like in somewhere in Manhattan. You know, honestly, just you're shaking your head now. It's probably not a fun area to work. I mean,
So in the police department, it's like Manhattan and Queens are not real cops, right? They're police officers, and then Brooklyn North and Bronx cops are one and the same. Like we're cops, like we're in the shit, you know, we're in shootouts. And I got into my first shooting. I was 10 months on the street. And then you had Staten Island, which is like a whole nother world unto itself. It's like the suburb. We call it Staten Italy. And you know, they had it really easy, really nice. It was like the suburbs, you know, they had actual like street lamps and, you know, poles that worked, light poles. So
yeah,
whole different animal. Yeah.
and gas stations, because you just don't see gas stations in Manhattan. I mean, I was like, how the heck do they even fill a car up over here, man? You never see them. But
if you did see a gas station, it was yellow cabs, like lines of yellow cabs. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that work? You get out there, you go to a precinct. Are the movies kind of, you know, there's like a watch commander, a guy sitting there, and you bring your caller in when you arrest somebody, and you check in with him, and you go from there. Is that kind of how it works?
So you walk to the desk sergeant. It's usually a desk sergeant that's that's on the desk, right? I remember my first experience like it was yesterday. I walked in when I graduated the academy. The next day, they're like, you know, go to your command and get a locker. And I walk into the 4-8, and I remember this Stevie Alfano, may he rest in peace. He walks me in, real great guy. And he's like, let's go to the desk. But he was setting me up, right? I didn't know. He's like, let's go to the desk and speak to the desk sergeant. He's a real nice guy. We'll see if we can get you a locker. And I woke up to the desk, and there's a guy who's a legend. He ended up passing away too, Joe Demarest. And he's sitting at the desk, and he's got his glasses on, right? And he's like, you know. And I go up to the desk, and I'm like, hey, Sarge, how you doing? And he's like, who the fuck are you? He looks at me, and I'm like, you know, PPO Angel Maysonet. PPO is like probationary police officer. PPO Angel Maysonet. I'm reporting for duty. I came to get a locker. He's like, get the fuck away from me. Like, why are you talking to me? Get out of here. And he goes and he buries his head back into the desk. And I'm like about to cry. I'm like, what did I get myself? And here I'm 6'5". I'm like 260 pounds. And I'm about to start weeping. And Stevie's laughing, takes me downstairs, helps me pick out a locker. And then, you know, but the precincts for the day tours, and the day tours were usually a lieutenant that sat on the desk. Sometimes it was a sergeant. The 4 to 12s was a sergeant most of the time. And on the late tours, it was either a sergeant or a cop who was on the desk because the sergeant was drunk and he was upstairs sleeping. So that's how it worked. Yeah.
So, I mean, do they just assign you? I mean, and forgive my ignorance, but do they give you like a couple of blocks area, and then you just kind of walk the beat? And then you probably don't even get a police car originally. You probably work up to get a police car, right? And you don't even have a take-home car. That's
no. I had one when I was in JTTF. You know, 15 years later. But so you get assigned to an FTO squad, right? My training sergeant was Pete Comer, who I did not get along with at all. We ended up, you know, getting along later. He ended up becoming a captain. He was a captain. I think he retired out of Transit District 30 years later. So Pete Comer and Leah Ahern was my sister squad's training sergeant. I don't even know how I remember all this shit. So we ended up getting assigned footposts, right? We were in Little Italy in the Bronx, Tremont Avenue, Fordham Road. We end up getting adjoining footposts. They give you a radio and they're like, hey, you're the police. Go out there and, you know, fight crime. And I'm like, I remember going out there and I had the radio like this, right? I'm walking out there and and I got the radio and I'm listening to it like it's a telephone, and I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna call my training post number, and I'm not gonna answer the right way. Like I'm shitting a brick, and I'm from the Bronx, right? I thought I was gonna be good to go, but I was scared
Do you
as
remember
hell.
do you remember your designator, your first one?
I remember, yeah, the first time I ever handled a job, I was on Arthur Avenue, right by Chickaroni Park. Again, I don't know how I remember this shit. 187th Street and Arthur Avenue. And this old Italian man walks up to me and he's screaming. He's screaming with his thick Italian accent. And he was like 5'2", right? Here I am, like this huge kid. And I'm looking at him and he's screaming and he's spewing racial epithets. I mean, just every word is a racial epithet, and talking about how his tenants are playing loud music and yada, yada, yada. And he wants me to go kick them out. So I'm like, I can't kick people out of their apartment, right? I mean, I knew that much. So then I get on the radio and I'm like 4-8 training post 22 to Central K. And I'm like, panicking. And I'm like, I need a sergeant. And then so my training sergeant pulls up and he's like, what's going on? So I tell him and he's like, handle it, like, what the fuck are you calling me for? And I'm like, but I don't know what to do. So I end up talking the old man off the ledge. I calmed him down. But that was my first call. And I remember I probably shit my pants. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. I've been a cop for 28 years, Angel, and I've just been out on the streets. I was in detective division for almost 20 years, and so I don't know what I'm doing either. And it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll just fly by the seat of our pants.
That's it.
So you work up from there, and then you basically make it to this next unit. And that unit, what is that unit called?
So I get into a squad, right?
Okay.
And then they put me on late tours, right? So I go to late tours. So I'm in FTU from January of '93 until September of '93. But in the interim, I got lucky. I would get into a car every now and then because I'm a big dude, right? So whenever somebody's partner would call out sick or whatever, they'd be like, "Give me that big dummy," right? Like I want him to ride with me because at least I know I'm gonna have a bullet catcher or somebody that's gonna keep me safe, So I started getting my feet wet, and I was getting I was getting under myself, and I would sporadically get in a car. And then in September of '93, we ended up getting assigned to midnights permanently. It was myself, Jimmy Bennett, my partner, and Adam Shank, who was kind of the outlier, right? He didn't have a partner. He ended up doing the cells a lot. We had cells that when there was an overflow from central booking, they would send the perps to different precincts to sit in the cells, and we'd have to feed them and make sure they didn't hang themselves and shit like that. So poor Adam Shank was always in the cells, and Jimmy and I got put into a radio car. We call them RMPs in New York. And we hit the ground running, we just started rocking and rolling,
Yeah. And then that unit that you get into before you join Joint Terror, the JTTF, what's that unit called again?
So that was the 48. So I was an anti-crime, if that's what you're referring to. Yeah. So I was
what does that do? Is that, I mean, I've been visualizing like a street crimes unit, but
yeah, it's like plainclothes patrol, basically.
Okay.
It was right before the Amadou Diallo shooting. I don't know if you're familiar with the Amadou Diallo shooting. He was the African immigrant that he got shot 41 times by the cops. He was pulling his wallet out, and there was a language barrier, and they shot him 41 times. It happened in the 4-3. So I got to anti-crime shortly before that incident happened, probably about 6 months beforehand, or maybe a year before that. So it was basically plainclothes patrol. We'd ride around in nondescript, unmarked cars, which everybody know, police cars. But it was the stop, question, and frisk era, right? It was what's lacking, pretty frankly, right now, right? People, the bad guys had a healthy fear of police. They were very afraid to carry guns because they knew we were going to jump out on them, we were going to toss them, and we were going to get the gun, right? We were constantly grabbing guns. And then you had the citywide street crime units, you had the borough-wide street crime units, which ended up as an offshot of that when the Diallo thing happened. And the borough-wide street crime units pretty much screwed everything up because they were putting kids in those units that didn't do enough patrol time. So they had like 3-4 years on the job, and they were running around in plainclothes with a sergeant who had 5 years on the job, and they were just being assholes, right? And they were giving everybody a bad name. And those were the dummies that ended up dumping the water on me that whole story when I ended up destroying their office and I ended up in JTTF. So those were the street crime, the borough-wide crime guys.
Yeah, I don't really want to deflect past that. That's kind of an interesting story.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
You didn't. No, you
It's
didn't at all.
traumatic.
If you don't want to talk about that one, it's
No. We'll talk about it. But
it's an interesting story.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
and by the way, you actually did assist with the 9/11 situation, and you lost a lot of people that you knew, and I wouldn't mind mentioning that at some point, just kind of get your how that I know it was horrible, but just I can't even imagine what you went through in your career, honestly. And just in New York, you guys are just exposed to so much that there's always some kind of a threat or there's a major incident. And I think people just kind of forget about that it's amazing how much stuff that you guys are actually exposed to. And
yes. When I got on the job, there were almost 38,000 of us. They called us the third largest army in the free world. And I mean, we were, like you said, exposed to everything. I mean, we got aviation unit, we had the divers, we had K9, we had our ESU teams, which is SWAT, the whole gamut of stuff, hostage negotiation. I mean, A to Z, you name it. A lot of room for growth, a lot of places to go. But I did most of my career on patrol because I just felt like it was the only way you could really honestly be your own boss. And I was just happy, right? I was in the same neighborhood, doing the same things with the same people. The bad guys knew me, the good guys knew me. I never got hungry, right? On the holidays, I'd go up in apartments and they'd feed us. It was just really, really good. And I was happy. And then my captain, my CEO came up to me and was like, look, every time there's a shooting, every time something happens, they call up the detective squad and they ask for Kojak, who's me. Well, some of you people are too young to remember who Kojak was. But the kids on the street either called me Kojak or the Big Show. So they would call up and be like, yo, I want to talk to Kojak. I got some information. And then the detectives would get pissed off because they'd be like, this guy's a patrol cop and everybody's calling up for him. So my CO, Barry Bazzetti, was like, look, go upstairs, try it out for 18 months. If you don't like it, come back down. And the rest is history.
Yeah. My dad actually stopped Telly de Savalas. My dad was a highway patrolman in LA.
The real guy.
Yeah. But anyway, so you end up doing that, and you're man, people are wanting to talk to you, which tells a lot. It's tells a lot about your character, and that's what people don't realize is you get to know a lot of people. And I've heard that before when people are like, oh, you're a racist, or all you cops are bad. And I'm like, really? I've been a cop for 20 plus years. Who's told you that? Because I'd like to know. And because believe me, if you are that kind of a guy out here on the streets in some of these neighborhoods, they'll know your name in 5 minutes. The word will be out on you in a hurry.
Yeah. Nobody will talk to you. Yeah.
No, ever. And so, nevertheless, so you did that. What was that incident that happened that basically that got you moved on to the? Well, no, you hadn't even. We haven't even got to 9/11 happens before this, does it?
Yeah. So that was in. So 9/11, I was working day tours. My daughter was 2 at the time, and her mother was allowing her to sleep in bed with her when I wasn't home, when I was working the overnights. So I changed my shift so that I could go get my daughter used to sleeping in the crib because it was killing my days off. So I ended up doing day tours, myself and my partner, Ray. And I got hurt. I hurt my back. I've always had back problems. I hurt my back. I want to say September 5th or 6th. So I was out sick. I'm living up in Orange County, New York, about 70 miles north of the city, 70 miles north of the Bronx. First plane hits, I get woken up. All hands on deck. Basically, it was a level 1 mobilization. Everybody who was working has to go. I was out sick, but I said, you know what, I'm going in. So as I'm getting dressed and I'm getting ready to head down, the second plane hits. And then I'm like, all right, this is it. Like, it's a terrorist attack. Like, we all knew it. So I called my desk, and Larry Gallagher, may he rest in peace, lieutenant, he's on the desk, and he's like, "You can't come in, you're out sick." And I said, "Boss, I'm coming in. I don't give a shit. Like, I got to come." I can't get in touch with my partner, Ray. He was working. So he's like, "Well, come down. I'm going to let you give out radios, but you can't go down the ground. You can't go down there." So I'm like, "All right, whatever. I'm on my way." They closed all the bridges. I had to show my tin, and I ended up getting down there. I get to the precinct, and I remember the F-16s, right? They were doing patrol up and down the Hudson, and my precinct was not too far from the GWB, and you hear the F-16, and they're just doing their rounds, and they're really, really low. And I'm like, man, this is like Red Dawn, right? This is like crazy, like World War III. And then we couldn't find my partner, Ray. He was missing. He went down there with the first batch of cops in a van, and he was missing. So, and his wife is 8 months pregnant at the time, or 7 months pregnant, and she's calling me crying, and I'm like, I got to get down there to find Ray. So Lieutenant Gallagher's like, "You can't go anywhere. You're a big dude, man. If something happens to you, it's going to take 6 cops to drag your big ass out of there." And I said, "Well, I'm going." So I end up jumping in the van, and I get there probably 6 o'clock that night. After everything fell, and so I get there, and in the interim, Ray, they find him, and he comes back, and he has to go through like a decomp. They go to Jacoby Hospital. They get in, like, I don't know if you remember the movie Silkwood, but you basically step into a booth, and it's just like they're just raining down on you, and he had to like. They basically he got back to the precinct in a smock, right? Like they took all his uniform, everything. And I just remember getting there and seeing the pile and smell, like you could smell the death, right? I mean, because we've all smelled it, right? Being detectives, the burning flesh. I mean, not to be too graphic. I'm sorry if I'm upsetting people, but the reality was, and then the bodies from the jumpers, what was left of them, God rest their souls. So it was just, I mean, it was like it was ground zero. It was hell on earth, and then ended up there working pretty much 5-6 days a week, 12, 16 hours a day until May, until they finally shut it down. And a lot of us got sick. I got sick from it. Thank God I'm okay. But I ended up getting diagnosed with cancer in 2023. So it was horrible.
You're good now?
Yeah, thank God. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
We've lost somebody. Travis just commented about the line of duty deaths. So we've now lost more people to illnesses related to 9/11 than we lost on that day. So
yeah, and there was actually a really good friend of yours that, I mean, I know that there was probably multiple people that you knew.
Sergio.
One in particular, yeah, that's right, Sergio, that actually
Sergio Villanueva, yeah.
transferred over to the fire department being a detective.
Sergio was Argentinian kid, ladies' man. I mean, he was a handsome dude, charismatic. He was on an episode of Cops when he was in a 4-6. Just a really good man. And the last time I saw him alive, I was testifying in court, and someone jumps on my back and starts kissing my neck and like molesting me, right? And I'm like, "What the fuck is it?" And I turn around, and it's Sergio, right? And he's kissing me, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And he called everybody Big Daddy. That was his thing. So he's like, "Yo, Big Daddy," and we're hugging, and I'm like, "Oh shit, I haven't seen him so long." He's like, "Yeah, I'm closing up all my cases. I'm going to FD." Tanya Villanueva, she took his last name. They never got married. Pepper. He's like, "Yeah, Tanya and I opened up a candle shop in Astoria, and I'm going to be working the FD so I could have more time to dedicate to the shop, and we're going to get married." And I was like, "Oh man, it's great to see you." And the next time I saw his face, he was among the missing. They buried his helmet.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, I remember when that happened. I told my dad, I said, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to head there. I'm heading to New York City. My dad's like, "By the time you get there, there's no way in the world you're even going to get close." Okay, they're not going to let you get close. And so I was like, and I still to this day, it drove me crazy. And I remember I was just glued to the television set for the next 3 days. I didn't even go to sleep, you know. So my heart definitely goes out to all of you guys. I know there was a little bit of a, that church down there in
Trinity. Yeah.
Is that the one? It's where George Washington went,
Yeah.
which didn't sustain any damage. You know, when you walk in there and you walk in the door, the thing that really stood out to me was the Oklahoma flag right there in the middle.
Yeah.
And from what I was told, that there was like a kinship because of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But all right.
Yeah, there was cops from all over the country that ended up coming and helping us with perimeter security and all that stuff. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, insane, man. I appreciate you sharing that because I know it's not easy.
Of course.
Even this many years later, it's not. It's kind of crazy that that it's been as long as it has been. Actually, it's just insane. But hello, everybody. I'm believe me, I'm reading who's in here and stuff. I'm just not. Angie, welcome. I appreciate you being here. And Angel, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. And we're here with Angel Maysonet, retired NYPD, and he's a legend to me. So and he's one of the finest. Believe me, he's one of those guys that actually was a real cop, and I appreciate it. And so I'm honored that he's here. So we're talking a little bit about that, and then from, you're still doing that crime unit. Then so let's talk about what transpired for you to kind of get on the. I know that you were already thinking about the Joint Terrorism Task Force anyway, were you not?
Yeah, so I was up in the squad and in the detective squad, because you go from patrol to a robbery apprehension module RAM unit, and then you end up getting your shield 18 months later. So I was up in the squad doing my thing. I had gotten my shield in 05, and I was just like, okay, working my cases, and I wanted to either go to Bronx homicide or to the JTTF. So these borough crime clowns, they were like nomads. They didn't have a home, right? They were constantly getting kicked out of precincts because they had this thing where they would dump water on people off of the roof of the precinct, and it got carried away, right? A lot of people thought that it was funny, and it was a novelty, but they were even wetting complainants. They wet a lady with a baby carriage. I mean, they were just out of control. They were acting like a bunch of prepubescent clowns. And I don't like that shit. To me, it's like, we want to break each other's balls. I mean, look, cops are the same everywhere, right? We break each other's chops constantly. But to be doing unprofessional shit like that, it just wasn't good. It didn't. So I would always run into them because we had a door that we cordoned off that they shared. They were supposed to share our bathroom when I was in the squad, but we wouldn't let them use the bathroom. And I would always run into them in the hallways, and they knew me because, I was in the 4-8. And I used to tell them all the time, one day you're going to wet the wrong motherfucker, and it better not be me. It better not be me. No, we know better. Come on. So whatever. So one day, lo and behold, I'm walking in the precinct, and I look up, and I see there's a sergeant who shall remain nameless, and a cop on the roof. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, these motherfuckers are going to wet somebody. So now there's another street crime guy walking behind me. So I don't think I was the intended target. That was what they said. Anyway, I walk in and I take 3 steps, and boom, they soak me, right? So now I see red. Now I go to the desk sergeant. I forgot who it was. And I says, I'm going to go kill somebody upstairs. Get everybody, call them in because the shit's going to hit the fan. And I walk upstairs, and my Lieutenant Gilroy, is in the squad, and he had a bump foot. He had broke his ankle or something, but he's in there doing his paperwork. And I take my gun out of my waistband and I put it on his desk, and I'm like, I'll be back. So now he's trying to grab me, but he can't get out of his desk fast enough because he's got the bum leg. So now I walk towards the street crime office, and I hear the locking, right? And without skipping a beat, I kick the door off the hinges. I mean, I literally, boom. And at the time, I'm 6'5". I was probably 320 pounds at the time.
Yeah, you're like a house.
I'm a svelte 258 now, so it's good. I'm taking care.
You're like an NFL lineman.
Yeah, exactly. So I kick the door off the hinges, and I flip 2 desks. I take a flat screen off the wall and throw it. Now the sergeant that wet me was in his office and his door's locked. I kick his door off the hinges and I basically flip his desk. Now I'm a detective, right? This is a sergeant. Grab him by the collar and I pick him up. And Gilroy makes his way in after he pushes his way past all the wreckage. And he's like, get the fuck out of here. You're going to get suspended. Go home, go home. He's screaming at me, let go of this, unhand the sergeant, right? He's like, unhand that man, right? Let him go. So I put the sergeant down. And I'm just, I went off on a Colonel Jessup fucking, you sleep under the blanket of protection which we provide, and then questions the manner in which we provide it, right? I went fucking nuts. And then I storm out of there. So the next morning, Paul Dietremont, who was the CEO of the precinct, calls me in his office, and I walk in, and I'm like Joe Pesci, right? Walking in Goodfellas, like I'm expecting there to be like tarp on the floor, and somebody's gonna come behind me, and boom, right? Like I'm done. I'm thinking I'm getting suspended. So the CEO of the street crime unit is there, the detectives delegate, the PVA delegate, the union delegate, and this lieutenant who I had a problem with in the past, who ended up getting there from JTTF, John McGreal. So he's there, and Dietremont and him worked street crime together back in the day. So now they're having a tete-a-tete, and I walk in, and I'm like, what's up here? Like, what's going on? Do I need representation? They're like, no, listen, we want to apologize, yada, yada, yada. So Dietremont tells McGreal, long story bearable, do me a favor, make a call to JTTF and see if you can get this guy an interview at least so we can get him out of here before he kills somebody. And I was like, okay, I'll put it in. So he calls up Tommy Keller, who's still there, and says, get this guy an interview. I get an interview. I sit in front of, may he rest in peace, Inspector Joe Herbert, who was the real police. He caught the Zodiac killer. He was the inspector in JTTF who interviewed me, and we had a 2-hour interview. And at the end of the interview, he's like, I'm looking forward to working with you. And 9 months later, I got top secret SCI clearance. And in December of 2007, I got to the JTTF.
What was that like?
Oh, the first thing that I remember, so there were two things. I walked into my office. I had a $150, $200 suit on, right? Tailored to me, right? It was a nice Caraco menswear suit. I couldn't buy anything off the rack, right? Because I was so big. I was like a 58 extra long. I walk into this building, and there's a carpet under my feet, and it's clean, right? And I'm like, look at this. Then they show me my desk, and I don't have to share it with some slob, right? It's my desk. And I have 3 computers there, right? Top secret computer, a regular computer, and a classified computer. And I'm like, holy shit. And then I go to use the bathroom, and I'm taking a shit in the bathroom that's clean, spotless. I couldn't believe it. There was toilet paper. It was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I got like, mama, I've made it, And then they give me my take-home car, and then they swear me in as a deputy U.S. Marshal, so I'm able to fly armed. I'm a deputy U.S. Marshal, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx, I'm on a fucking JTTF on the most elite unit in the NYPD. So it was very surreal.
Yeah. I mean, I would think there's probably even cops that don't even know how to drive, really.
Oh,
because they don't really.
Yeah, definitely.
Really? I mean, I was just kind of being kidding, but I mean,
100%, 100%. Listen, I knew cops that didn't drive before they became cops, and the only reason they got their license because they had to get their driver's license in order to become a police officer.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you get this, and you're actually you're in a like totally a different environment that you're used to, because totally different. And so you start going out there, and you start. What was your first big case that you actually solved in that arena?
So Operation Rapid Return. This kid from Staten Island, his name was Abdelhamid Shahada. Him and his cousins and some friends were practicing jihad and war games and all sorts of shit. He gets on our radar because he flew to Pakistan, and they turned him back around. And when he came back, he got interviewed, and we ended up dumping his email and going through all his shit. And he was a big follower of Anwar al-Awlaki, who's I don't know if you're familiar, but he put out magazine called Inspire, which is basically like a news weekly for Al Qaeda. And he was famous for how to build a bomb in the kitchen of your mom. But the thing that made him as really notorious was he was an American citizen who was fighting to kill Americans on behalf of Al Qaeda overseas. So I don't know if you remember, but probably 12, 13 years ago, we shoved a drone up his ass and his son's ass overseas. So he's the only American citizen that has been killed by a drone strike by U.S. forces in the history of the United States. So he was sent to meet his 72 virgins. So Abdulhamid Shahada was a big follower of this dude, and ended up, it's like 6 degrees of separation with these terrorists. So this kid ended up, he was going to join, he wanted to get to join the military to do an insider attack, similar to Major Nadal Hassan from Fort Hood, right, when he killed troops. He wanted to do a similar sort of insider attack. So we put him on the no-fly list. We had surveillance up on him in the cars, his friends, everything. Long story bearable, he ends up circumventing the no-fly list twice and ends up in Hawaii. How do we know that? Because we had ticklers out on his credit cards. And all of a sudden, one day we're sitting in the office and we get a call from Honolulu JTTF, and they're like, your guy is in the mall at Honolulu, like shopping. And we're like, what? And they're like, check your high side computer, which is top secret. And we check, and sure as shit, he's fucking buying shit in the mall in Honolulu. So we're like, oh shit, poor me. Now I got to fly to Honolulu.
Yeah, we got to go. We got to go, boss.
Yeah. I got to fly. Poor me, right? Somebody's got to do it. So we end up, and the kid was super counter surveillance, like very, very attuned into surveillance. So he was constantly burning surveillance. So we had Honolulu PD, JTTF on him, and he was constantly burning. He would walk up to the cars and be like, hey guys, how you doing? He'd be like, hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing, officers? You want to follow me? I'm going to go take a shit, that type of thing. He was a real arrogant fucking kid. He was 20 years old. So anyway, we end up getting him.
So he's 20. He's 20. And he's not even sweating the fact that he's got the Joint Terrorism Task Force on him, the FBI, NYPD, everybody.
He could give a shit. He could give a shit. So he's out there. We end up in a ruse, putting him in a house that he thinks he's house sitting. And he's planning now in his infinite wisdom that he's going to, first he looks at getting a jet ski and getting on a jet ski and going across the ocean to Africa to join Al-Shabaab or Boko Haram, to join them on a jet ski. The stupid ass. We should have let him do it. He would have been fish food. But he ends up finding out that wasn't a good avenue. So then he decides he's going to take a cruise to the Ivory Coast. And then from there, he's going to go join Al-Shabaab or Boko Haram or try to get to Al-Qaeda. So our goal was to stop him because maritime law, you can't cruise until you're 21. So we end up locking him up. His birthday was Monday. We ended up locking him up Friday afternoon. In the house we had wired up, he's walking around with a gun. So Honolulu JTTF decided to hit the house, or they told him to come in because they wanted to talk to him. They intercepted him in the street. They did a takedown, felony stop. Ends up it was a BB gun, thank God. They locked him up. I got him in the box. Him and I already had a relationship. I had tossed him a couple of times and got up in his ass in a park in Staten Island a couple of times in the interim during the investigation. So he didn't like me too much, but we had a good rapport. And I got him to give up his plans, and we ended up getting him on 2 1001 charges, which is lying to a federal agent because he wasn't able to complete his mission. So he got concurrent sentences of 8 years in prison. So he ended up doing 16 years. He's out now. So that was my first big case. That was 2008. So I got there in December of 2007, and this case started in March of 2008, I want to say. So I hit the ground running, and I just, I did my thing.
Yeah. And I mean, you're out there, you're in the middle of it, man. You're not getting treated like a child anymore. You're actually dealing with big time stuff.
Yeah.
And so let's
Yeah.
talk about Operation Highrise. This is something that I actually, when you started talking about it, I've done a little homework and listened to some stuff about it, but I didn't realize that this is, to be honest with you, it's my own ignorance. I didn't realize, and I must have been not paying attention because I'm pretty astute to what's going on in the world, but I didn't realize that Osama bin Laden actually had a plan, a new plan. I figured he was just hiding he was too busy just hiding. But so let's talk about that. How this thing get going? And it's an extraordinary investigation, and you really, big time. I mean, you saved it could have been catastrophic for New York City, really.
100%. So, Adis Medujanin, who was my guy. So it's three guys. Adis Medujanin, Zareen Ahmadzai, and Najibullah Azazi, who was the main guy. Najibullah Azazi lived in Denver. He was a Queens kid, but he lived in Denver. He would go back and forth, and he had a coffee cart down Wall Street. Him, Zareen Ahmadzai, and Najibullah and Adis Medujanin, who was a Bosnian kid from Queens, decided that they were going to, after getting radicalized online and whatever, going to the same mosque and getting radicalized, that they were going to, they wanted to go to training camp in Waziristan. So they ended up getting a story together that Adis was going to marry Zareen's cousin in Afghanistan, because Zareen was from Afghanistan, and they were going there with money for a dowry. A dowry is you're basically paying somebody for their daughter. You could bring a cow, you could bring money, whatever. So that was the story that they concocted. They get out there. They meet a facilitator who gets them over the Khyber Pass from Afghanistan in the upper tribal areas. There's literally like a pathway that you have to go through in order to get to Waziristan, where most of the training camps were. So they end up, we find this out all post investigation. We find out that they end up going out there and meeting with the number 2 of Al Qaeda, who had gotten direct instructions from Osama bin Laden to this plot that they were going to blow up 3 subway cars in a suicide attack similar to the London bombing attacks. So that was what they were going to do. So they end up going out there, they get the training, they come, Adis and Zareen come back, and Najibullah stays for an extra week and a half, and he gets the explosives training. Now, in his infinite wisdom, he goes to the equivalent of like a Kinko's in the middle of the fucking mountains in the middle of Afghanistan, and he emails himself the notes that he took to make the bomb. The NSA was up on this email address. A lot of stuff I got to be careful because I signed a non-disclosure, so some of the stuff I can't be specific about. I could tell you, but then I have to kill you, right? So he emails himself the bomb making materials, and the NSA is up on the email, and they intercept this email. So now they're code red, like it's like holy shit, like something's gonna happen. So they don't know what to do. They're basically running around in circles. So now they start pinging us. Does anybody know this guy? Does anybody know this guy? So now we hit Intel up, NYPD Intel, and we say, hey, do you guys have any sources who knows this guy Najibullah Azazi and his 2 dummies, his friends? So one of the detectives in Intel had a source by the name of Ahmad Weiss Afzali. I don't know how the fuck I remember this stuff, but I do. Ahmad Weiss Afzali was an imam, and Ahmad Weiss Afzali was BFFs with Najibullah's dad, right? So he was kind of a double agent. So he ends up calling Najibullah's dad, and he's like, yo, like the feds are looking for your son. Like, what the hell is going on? What is he doing? They know he went overseas. So he calls Najibullah and tells Najibullah, hey, the feds are onto you. So now Najibullah's in a Homewood Suites in Aurora, Colorado. He had bought all this acetone and all this shit. We have all the surveillance video later on. And he's building little bombs, and he's blowing them up in his backyard, and he's doing all this stuff. So now he knows that we're onto him. So now he dumps all his shit down the drain in the Homewood Suites which we end up getting, right? Because we end up going through the septic tank. We get all the evidence later on. He jumps in his car and he hightails it back to New York. Denver JTTF grab their go bags, they jump on him and they follow him back to New York on the road. As they're tailing him on the road, somebody comes up with the plan to let's do a ruse stop on the George Washington Bridge and see if this guy has detonators or anything in his car that, you know, is explosive linked. So they get a narcotics interdiction, dog. They can't even get an explosives, dog. And they do this ruse car stop. So we find out later through his testimony that if they found the detonators in his car, he was going to jump off the George Washington Bridge and commit his jihad, his final act of, you know, to get his 72 virgins. The dog does the, you know, once, twice around, misses the detonators. They're in the car, misses them. They send him on his way. They continue to follow him. He gets to Grand Central Station. He gets spooked, dumps the car, dumps his laptop, runs into Grand Central. We lose him. But we have the car, we have the laptop. So now we mirror the hard drive. So now the getting is good. Now they get the jock up and running, the Joint Operations Center, the command center, and all hell's breaking loose. And I happen to be working an overnight. And the special agent in charge of New York, Demarest, he says, we're getting on a video conference call with the White House. You're the only one here from the NYPD. We got to do a conference call with the White House. So I'm on a video call with the White House at 3 a.m, right? We end up breaking up into arrest teams after we brief the White House about what's going on. I end up in Whitestone, Queens. I end up with the Adis Medujanin piece. We end up executing a warrant at his house. We take him out of the house. I interview him for 4 hours on the side of the Whitestone Expressway. He's denying everything. Meanwhile, we executed about 22 warrants throughout the city, trying to find his coffee cart because we think he might have the coffee cart downtown, and he's about to blow up Wall Street, you know, the NASDAQ, the stock exchange, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this as short as I can. I interviewed him for about 4 hours, myself and the agent that I was working with, who was like tits on the bull, but that's another story. So we're basically standing on the side of the Whitestone Expressway. So Adis and I are going back and forth. We build a nice rapport and we come to a gentleman's agreement. And the gentleman's agreement was, listen, we can hate each other, but we promise never to lie to one another, right? You can't lie because it's Muslim, you know, it's haram. You can't lie, yada, yada, yada. I won't lie to you. You won't lie to me. Let's have this agreement. Boom, 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 boom. Send him on his way. Finish executing the warrants. That was a Friday night into Saturday. Monday, I go back, I get him. We go to Eastern District of New York, and I get him in the box, and I'm there 17 hours with this guy straight. 17 hours. I'm going at him. I'm throwing phone books, flipping chairs. I'm holding his hand. I'm crying with him. You know the deal, right? You go high, low, left, right. I'm your friend. I hate you. Whatever. We're going back and forth in the interview room. The FBI is trying to get in the interview room, and Bobby Lasada, may he rest in peace. He was a retired sergeant who ended up working for the Eastern District. He's blocking them. He won't let them in the room. So I'm going at Adis in the room for 17 hours. We finish. We basically got nothing, right? We get bits and pieces. But what we do find out is that he had 2 passports. He had a Bosnian passport and he had an American passport. He ripped the page when he went to Pakistan and to Afghanistan. He ripped the page out of his passport. So he says, okay, we got something here. So now we're going back and forth, and this agent from the State Department, Craig Goldstein, tells me, well, let's do a warrant for his, passport. I'll write up the warrant because it's a State Department thing, because it's a passport, and we'll go, and then you could try to go at him. So in the interim, the Pakistani secret police, the ISI, who have different methods of interrogation than we do, they end up getting the facilitator who got them across the Khyber Pass. They end up getting him in custody. And through their interrogation techniques, they find out their kunya. The kunya is the name given to them on the battlefield that only their facilitator and their co-conspirators know, and the higher-ups in Al-Qaeda. It's a nickname, basically, right? Their warrior name, for lack of a better term. So we find out through top secret classified cable from the CIA, we get this kunya. Now, I can't say the whole kunya, but it started with Muhammad. So I knew the kunya, so I said to myself, if I get the opportunity to call him by his kunya, I'm going to do it. And I don't give a shit if I get jammed up about it or not, because I got to stop this. We don't know what's going to happen. So I mulled it over a long time in my brain, and I was like, what's the worst they can do to me? They'll take my top secret clearance, and they'll send me off to Staten Island and work, right? What the hell? Fuck it. So we go serve him a warrant for his ID, for his passports, and as we go in there, I put my arm around his shoulder, and I'm like, Adis, I said, what name did you sign on the, because you got to sign a receipt when we take your passports. I said, did you sign Adis or did you sign Muhammad? And I said the rest of the kunya. So he looked like he got punched in the chest. Like he literally stepped back. He got white. He was a pretty big kid. And he was like, that's not my name. I don't know what you're talking about. Get out of my house. So now I grab him and I get real close to him and I tell him, I know what you did, motherfucker, and I'm coming back for you. And I put my shoes on because, you get into a Muslim house, you got to take your shoes off. Put my shoes on. I bid him farewell and I leave. Nothing happens. So I'm like, fuck, that didn't work. So I get in my G ride and I'm on my way home. And then one of my buddies calls me and he's like, come back. And I'm like,
hang on.
what's up?
Was the FBI pretty excited with what you just did?
No, they were pissed. They were so scared because like the agent I was with was like, my career is over. I can't believe you used this kunya. What the fuck were you thinking? And I'm like, it's on me. Don't worry about it. It's good. So, now they call me and they're like, yo, your guy just tried to kill himself. And I'm like, get the fuck. Because, we break each other's balls. They're like, no, he's in Queens. He's in the hospital. Get your ass back there because they have him in the ER. He tried to kill himself. So I'm like, fuck. So now I do a U-turn on the Palisades Interstate Parkway and I'm driving back to Queens. And I'm in a 2009 Ford pickup truck, right? Blue, nondescript, no lights, no sirens, nothing. And I'm doing 120 miles an hour trying to get to Queens. I get pulled over by a highway cop. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? So I give him a brief Reader's Digest, and I'm like, I need an escort to the hospital. So 2 highway cops, lights and sirens, they escort me to the hospital. I get there. I walk in the ER. Kevin Carney, Mike Murphy, 2 detectives, and the agent that I was working with are there with him, and he's in a neck brace, and he's in the hospital, and he sees me walk in, and he's like, oh, Angel, I really fucked up, didn't I? And I'm like, yeah, you sure did. So now I told the nurse, take his neck brace off. So she's like, we can't do it. And I'm like, take his fucking neck brace off. I'm going to take it off. So now she takes his neck brace off and I throw the other 3 out of the room. And I tell the agent I'm with, I said, stay with me. So I look at Adis and I tell him, remember our gentleman's agreement. We promise not to lie to each other. I know what you did. You're going to sign your waiver to your attorney. You're going to waive your rights and you're going to give me the whole story. And he was like, okay. And he signed a waiver. And so rewind, what happened was after I called him by his kunya and I left, 45 minutes later, we had a surveillance team sitting outside of his apartment. He panics. He tells his sister, they're going to get me. I'm going to die in jail. Da, 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 da. I'm leaving. I'm going to commit jihad. He runs. He grabs the keys to her Nissan Altima, gets in her car, drives up the Whitestone Expressway doing 100 miles an hour, and he calls 911, and the 911 operator picks up, and she's like, police fire the ambulance. And he's like, this is Adis. We love death more than you love life. And then he starts chanting in Arabic, there is only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. He keeps saying this over and over and over again in Arabic. And you hear it on the 911 call. If you go on YouTube and you look up his name, the 911 call is there. And then you hear him crash. Boom! The idiot doesn't have a seatbelt on and he doesn't fucking get a scratch, right? If it was you or me, we get a paper cut in our finger, we die, right? This guy had no seatbelt on, 100 miles an hour, back of a car, trying to commit jihad, jumps out, starts running, and off-duty Suffolk County cop draws down on him, gets him on the ground, they cuff him, bring him to the hospital, and that's where I come in. He ends up signing the waiver. We take him back to our location in Chelsea. We get the geo mapping folks from the CIA and the NSA in the room. He gives us coordinates. He gives us a big map. And by, I would say, noon the next day, we blew up 2 training camps in Waziristan, and we killed numerous Al-Qaeda operatives in those 2 drone strikes in the training camps. We ended up going to trial. and Adis ends up getting 2 life sentences plus 95 years in Supermax, as does Zareen Ahmadzai. And then, of course, the bomb maker, fucking Najibullah, ends up cooperating, and he ends up getting like probation or some shit. But that was
Really?
Operation Highrise. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But,
So
hey,
that
what
was
did you?
Operation Highrise.
I want to talk. I want to talk about the one thing that's really positive and it's kind of fun, and then I'm going to ask you why you ultimately retired. But you got a detail to work at Yankee Stadium. That was like a detail. Man, that's
Mhm.
That's pretty freaking cool. I mean, I'm sure that's not easy to get. How did that all come about?
So it's called paid detail. So it's basically like what you guys do, in your department, where you could work at a bar in uniform, like off duty, right? You get paid
Okay. Oh,
on the
because
side.
extra job.
So it's extra job. We got paid by the Yankees, and you would volunteer. So I would do out of 80 games, 82 games a year in Yankee Stadium, I probably do 40 of them or 50 of them, right? So the thing about me was, no matter how big I was, no matter what, my uniform was always squared away. My shoes were always shined. I always had creases because my thing was half the battle, and you know this, when you're a police officer and you walk into a situation and you're squared away, people won't fuck with you, right? They see you and they know you mean business. So I was always squared away in uniform. So when I started doing the detail, I started up in the bleachers, right up in the nosebleed seats. And the guy who was giving out the assignments took notice of me because I was squared away, as you can see in my photo with my arm and my hat and my glasses. And they were like, "We want you on the field." There we are. "We want you on the field working the Yankee dugout." So that was my permanent post. I ended up on the field, and me and Derek Jeter ended up building a nice rapport. We both retired in 2014. He stole my thunder. He retired the same year I did. Freaking prick. Yeah, so I retired in 2014, and I left the job. And that was it.
I mean, did you ever have was there any, like, I'm sure there was some small talk and stuff when you're in the dugout with them?
Oh
like,
yeah, well, so we
not
weren't
just
allowed
with
to
them,
sit.
but with all of them, you know?
So we weren't allowed to sit actually in the dugout. We were sitting in the photographer's wall next door because some stupid cop asked somebody for an autograph during a game and they got pissed off, and so they wouldn't let us in the dugout. But we would be in front of the dugout between innings, and then we would, be on the field for pregame warmups. But I mean, I spoke to all of them. Jeter was a gentleman. We used to speak before almost every game. I have a really cool photo of him and I together, and he actually autographed it for me. And we used to speak all the time. But he was really cool. Nick Swisher was a really good guy. Most of the guys were good. CC Sabathia was good. Most of the guys were really good guys, really, really humble, personable guys. So it was a really great experience.
What's it like in their clubhouse?
Oh,
Pretty epic.
I mean, it's crazy. It's even so. The umpires.
This is the old Yankee Stadium, or is this?
No, this is the new. I was in the building in the old Yankee Stadium when Aaron Boone hit the home run against the Red Sox to win the ALCS and go to the World Series. I was in the old Yankee Stadium in 2003 when Aaron Boone hit that home run. I was working. I was in right field, and I thought the stadium was going to collapse. It was shaking. I mean, I've never. And I worked a lot of games because I was in the Bronx, but we would go into the umpire's room and there'd be lobster tail, shrimp, filet mignon, fruit, burgers. I mean, you name it. They ate like they were going to the chair. I mean, it was insane, the food that they had, the spread. It was crazy. They fed us like we were about to get electrocuted.
Here you were a kid growing up in the Bronx, and now you're in the dugout at a Yankees game.
Full circle, baby. Full circle.
You had to have just scratched your head many, many times going, how is this even possible?
It was insane. It's funny because the first time I knew I needed glasses was I was about 8 years old, and I was sitting in Yankee Stadium in the loge seats, for anybody who remembers the old Yankee Stadium seating. And I was with my mom, and I couldn't see the scoreboard. And I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, I need glasses. Like, I can't see the scoreboard." And that was the first time I knew that I needed glasses in the old Yankee Stadium in 1978 or something,
I've actually toured Yankee Stadium. It's cool. I've
toured it.
Yeah. I've heard that everybody that I've talked to, they said, "Oh no, the old one was better."
Oh,
But yeah,
it was insane. Yeah, yeah,
and I've seen a game over at Citi Field too, which is pretty epic. That's a nice place. I mean, I don't want to say
yeah.
something that's going to be sacrilegious, but
Uh-oh.
I
Here
mean,
we
it was
go.
kind of cool taking the 7 train to where they play in
City
a
Field.
car full of Mets fans
Mm-hmm.
and catching the game there. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
But
My baby cousin works for the Mets, so I have to root for them because of him. He's a hitting instructor in their organization. He's a hitting and rehab coach down in Port St. Lucie. So I have to root
nice.
for the Mets when I don't root for the Yankees. But I'm a
And
diehard
you still live in New York area?
I
Kind
live
of?
in Edgewater, New Jersey. I live right on the Hudson. If I take you to my balcony, I watched the July 4th fireworks from my balcony.
Oh,
It was
wow.
incredible.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I bet it was.
I could throw a rock and hit the West Side Highway from my house.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
I notice a lot of New York cops, they actually retire at like 20. Why
Mm-hmm.
is that? Well, and you stayed to 22. But why is it that a lot of guys don't stick around till like 30 and 35? That's where most of the guys here, or at least here, 25, possibly 30. A lot of them, some of them will stick around to 35. I'm going to try to stick around to 35. But why is it that people leave at 20 there? Really?
So I did 22 years, 6 months, and 1 day. The thing is 20 and out, right? And especially now. So I was in the tier 2 pension system. So all you had to do was 20 years and leave. Now I believe it's like tier 4 or something, and you have to do 22 years in order to retire. The thing was, now with all the anti-police vitriol throughout the country, and since the George Floyd Summer of Love, and Mike Brown, and the Alton Sterlings of the world, and all that crazy shit, and the war on police in this country, all the officers feel like they're risking their pension if they stay a day past their eligible retirement date. So they basically feel like they're rolling the dice with their pensions, because if you get convicted of a felony, you lose your pension if you don't retire. So a lot of folks are just like, you know what? I busted my ass for 20 years. I gave blood, sweat, and tears literally to the city and the great people of New York, and they just don't want to risk it.
Yeah. So what's next for you? You don't have to tell us what exactly you're doing now, but I know that you've been a consultant on Fox many times.
Yeah.
Still doing that?
So I started with Fox News. I did Telemundo, Univision, Newsmax, CBS, NBC. But I stopped because it's just so saturated now. And I'll be honest with you, what made me stop was the Guthrie case, which is actually ironically back in the news today. They released a ransom note saying that she's dead. But they were constantly hitting me up to go speak about this Guthrie kidnapping.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never worked a KFR case in my life. I've never worked a kidnap for ransom case. So I don't want to go on the news and just be a talking head and be like, and give away our tools of the trade either. So I basically kept turning them down because they wanted me to talk about this Guthrie case. Oh, you're a detective. You could talk about it. We'll wing it. And I was like, I'm done. Don't call me anymore. So they haven't called me to do it anymore because I just don't want to be a pundit, like just some talking.
Well, no, actually, I appreciate that. I mean, and that's that case from the times when I've watched it, and I know a couple of the guys that have been on there talking about it and stuff, and I like them. And actually, there's been a couple of them that have represented very well, and then there's been others that I know that I've been like cringing a little bit.
What they're talking about.
No. Well, there's none of us that have ever been through like a ransom school. I mean, we just, regular cops, we don't deal with that stuff.
Absolutely.
And most of your feds don't either. I mean, it's just a rare deal. Very rare.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway,
I am going to write a book. I see a lot of people have been asking about that. I've had some people reach out to me for it. When I find the time, I do corporate security for a major Fortune 500 company now. When I retired from the PD, I retired because I got an offer to do labor relations investigator for one of the biggest utilities on the East Coast. I worked my way up in that company to running their investigation and tactical operations team. And then I parted ways with them. And then I ended up with this company now, and I'm doing corporate security for them. And I've been really fortunate. I reinvented myself twice so far after retirement. and I've landed on my feet, and I kind of know what I'm talking about. So and I do have the gift of gab, so that helps out too.
Do you drink? Do you ever drink?
So I'm gonna.
Well, no,
I'm gonna
I'm not. The reason why is because if I'm in New York City, I'm going to call you. And
oh,
then,
I'll drink with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. That's
Yeah. We'll have some bourbon. Yeah, definitely.
okay. All right. Yeah, for sure. I'll bring you some. I'll bring you some cigars or something along those lines.
Yes, that's what
Absolutely.
I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, that's why I was
a
asking.
good time.
Yeah. I wasn't. Yeah. That's why I was asking, because if I ever come out there, I'm actually going to be speaking in Atlantic City, but that's too far. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what.
Deliver a baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I want to, let's real quick before we get off here. I wanted to, you delivered 2, and did I see something in the news where you'd actually tried to reach out and try to find out where that baby is? What's up with this?
I did. Lucy Yang, God bless her, from Eyewitness News. So in 1995, I delivered a little Honduran girl. She was breached when I got there. She was breached. Went in there, turned her around, got her out. Myself and my partner. There's a picture float. There it is. That's her in the little aluminum foil Italian bread blanket, right? They wrap them up to keep them nice and warm. You can see the powder blue shirt there. Those went away in 1995. Delivered a little girl, 1967 Marmion Avenue. Beautiful little baby girl. She's hopefully alive and well and thriving. I couldn't find her. The second one, the story with that was basically we got a 911 call. We got there before the ambulance did. She was breached, or she was coming out. I grabbed her little tush, pushed her back in, turned her around, pulled her out, and her sister got 2 clothespins, and we cut the umbilical cord and waited for EMS to get there. And then when we came outside, Andrew McDonough had a Polaroid camera because he was what I used to call a ghoul. He was constantly taking pictures of the dead bodies. And there's always one guy like that, right? You must have them too. And he ended up snapping the picture of me and Jimmy holding the baby girl after we delivered her.
Very cool.
And then down the block from there, ironically, about a year later, not so happy ending, we get a 911 call. There's a woman in distress, and we get there, and there is a, can I call them crack whores? I don't know if I can do that, if that's politically correct, but I'm going to call her a crack whore. She was a crack whore. She was on a park bench, and she was there with her legs open, and the baby's head was out in the middle of the street. And I pulled the baby out. She had one arm, 2 fingers out of one shoulder. Her eyes weren't fully developed yet. She was crying, but the crack whore's friend was with her, and she was upset, but the girl who was giving birth didn't know what the hell was going on. She was in a daze. And we got the little girl to the hospital, and I remember they cracked her chest, and they were massaging her heart between their fingers. Wow. And I remember the only time in my life I ever prayed to God for a child to die. And I said, God, please don't let her live, because she's not going to have any sort of quality of life. And I'm not religious, but I'm God fearing, and God knows what he does. And she ended up passing away, poor baby. But that was a not so happy ending. Yeah. But that was, you're a special guy. I mean, one of the things that you really wanted to, that you kind of instilled with the younger cops and stuff, is treating people right. Am I right on that? Absolutely.
And one of the things that my dad had always kind of told me, and I've tried to pass it on to every class that I've ever taught. I just talked about it when I spoke in Indiana. I talk about it everywhere I go. And that's that your badge should be the same size it was the day they issued it to you, not 5 sizes too big, and it's treating people right, as good as they'll allow you to treat them,
100%. Yeah.
And 100%. And I really appreciated that when I kind of heard that about you. And man, I seriously, I look up to you a lot, Angel. You're out there making a difference. I'm looking forward to when you get this book coming out, man. Come back. Well, you can come back anytime, man. Everybody in here loves you. And but when you have this book, for sure, man, we'll have you back, and we'll freaking talk about it and try to sell as many as we can. And you need to write one. You definitely need to. So I think I'm sure you will. Man, I'll tell you what, you've done a lot in your life. From somebody that was just a kid that was living, you didn't live in the high life in the Bronx,
Yeah, listen, we went through it. We were welfare. I mean, we were even homeless for 6 months. I mean, my mother went through it. Thank God for my mama, because without her, I wouldn't be the man I am today. She raised me on her own, and I think she did a pretty good job. And without my mama, I'd be nothing. So, love you, mommy.
Yeah. Kudos to you, man. You're an inspiration to a lot of police officers out there, and you've really done well for yourself. And seriously, man, I'm honored to call you a friend, and I'm glad that you're here. And everybody that I know, man, I've got a lot of heroes in my mind that are NYPD guys, and you guys there's a lot of special people that work there, and you're definitely one of them. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed tonight. I really do. I think he could talk forever. I mean, he's just given us a taste, and when you listen to him recount some of these stories, I mean, he remembers it like it was today.
Yeah.
How you remember these names, man? I don't know, but
a lot of bandwidth in this big head, my friend.
Yeah. And most cops are pretty darn good storytellers, and they remember these cases darn well.
Yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you, Angel. Seriously, man, I appreciate you being here. Hopefully, you all have enjoyed it. I will tell you that next week it's Tom Arnelli from the Cleveland. He's retired now, but Cleveland First 48, and he's one of the old school guys, man. He was old then, and he's a lot older now, but he's wanting to come on here. He's all excited about it. So we're going to bring him on next week, and we've got some really dynamite people that are coming up beyond that. And this show is not a show without you. I appreciate everybody coming in here. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate somebody saying she's trying to hook me up with a speaking gig up in Minnesota. Awesome. I'll speak anywhere. Okay. I will pretty much speak anywhere in this country. And I appreciate that you're even looking and even considering that. Somebody's in here from London actually tuning in tonight, which is cool. So I'll even speak in London. I'll go anywhere in the world within reason. I'm not interested in going to Afghanistan. I'm not going over there, but most places I will go. But ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. Don't click off of here, Angel. Stick around. We're going to keep you here.
All right, I will.
Behind the curtain. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate everybody being here and your kind comments and so forth. And man, what a storyteller. Remember to like and subscribe. You know, we're coming really close. I mean, super close to I think I'm going to hit the 5,000 goal by the end of the year. That was my goal. I think we're at 4,700, like right at the cusp of 4,700 right now.
Beautiful.
It'd be 4,800. I don't remember subscribers, but it's really close. And so I really appreciate it. And I need you guys to just click on there and subscribe. It takes a microsecond. And it just helps with the algorithm. It's not that I'm going to run to the bank and just cash in big giant checks, but it helps, okay, with the algorithm, and I appreciate it. I'm seeing a lot of new names in here, and I appreciate y'all being here. Remember, next week, 7 o'clock live, I'll put out a flyer on it really quick, and tell your friends and family, tell others that you think might like this show, and have them check it out. And until next week, take us out, Amanda.